It was terrible. It really destroyed me. And it made me question if I was good enough to be a Pilates instructor. And it made me question my entire life, really, for that matter. But moral of the story is I grew from that. I did not let it bring me down. Get ready to say goodbye to anxiety in the Pilates studio and hello to a more confident version of you. Whether you're a Pilates instructor or you're going through your teacher training, or maybe you're someone who's interested in taking a Pilates class but you're kind of nervous about it, this video is for you. If you're new to my channel, my name is Aileen and I'm a certified Pilates instructor from Miami. There's going to be two parts to this video. One for Pilates teachers and Pilates teachers in training, and one for clients, people who like taking Pilates, or maybe you're new to Pilates and you're interested in taking it. In both sections, we're going to go over how to minimize the nerves that come with being in the Pilates studio. Whether you're a new teacher and you're teaching classes that it makes you kind of nervous, or you haven't even started teaching classes and you're already nervous about it, or you're someone who really wants to try Pilates but you're kind of nervous about going into a new studio or just taking a group class for that matter, I'm here to help you minimize all of those nerves that come with trying something new to help you feel safe and confident in the Pilates studio. It's a beautiful space that you can really flourish in, so let's try and minimize those nerves so that you can really enjoy your time in the studio. I'm going to place in the description the timestamps for both sections so that you can jump to the section that you're really most interested in. If you do watch the entire video, I'm sure that there's nuggets from both sections that you can pull and that can help you, so if you want to stick around for it all, I'd love to have you. So go ahead and grab your coffee or your drink of choice and let's get started. We're gonna start with the client side first. Now, if you're someone who's new to Pilates or maybe is thinking about trying Pilates, or maybe you already have done Pilates but you wanna try a new studio or a new instructor, but going into a new classroom makes you feel kind of nervous, I'm here to help you, don't worry. Now, first things first, you want to remember why you wanna practice Pilates. Likely it's because you wanna feel good. Now, I know a lot of people practice Pilates to try and get the Pilates body, but really Pilates is a method that is amazing. It is amazing for your body. And if you figure out why you want to really be doing it for your own reasons, other than just the vanity of it, which if that's your main goal, that's great. But the mental clarity that you get from practicing Pilates is something that, in my opinion, is unmatched to a lot of other forms of exercise. So don't let the fear of trying something new get in the way of something that can be really, really good for your mental health and your physical health. So figure out your why and why you want to practice Pilates, and always go back to that when you feel nervous, or maybe even when you feel like you don't want to get out of bed and make it to your class. Remember your why. Now, if you want to go into a new studio or you want to take a new instructor or anything like that, make sure that you do your research. Just prepare yourself. Get to the studio early, figure out the parking situation. The earlier that you get there, the less frantic you will arrive, which will make your body a little more calm. If you're entering the studio space and your nervous system is all out of whack already, of course you're going to feel nervous the moment that you walk into the classroom and sit on the reformer. So if you get there early, find out the parking situation, you can get yourself acquainted with the studio if it's a new studio, and have time to just sit on the reformer, take a couple of deep breaths, get some stretches in, whatever it is. Just make sure that you're walking in a nice calm state. If you're leaving work and trying to rush to get there, that's okay. Just sit in the car, maybe take a minute or two to take a couple of deep breaths, so that when you walk into that space, think of it as like a sanctuary. You're walking in and you're doing something that is good for your health, and you want it to be a nice and calm space. It's also a gift to just move your body, so remember that. Every time you sit on that piece of Pilates equipment, it's a gift to be able to be there in that classroom, and sometimes it's not financially available to a lot of people. So if you have the opportunity to take a Pilates class, go in with a grateful heart, and it will make you a little more appreciative of the entire class time. Now, if you get there early, it's also a win-win because the instructor will likely introduce themselves. And if they don't be afraid to go up to the instructor and introduce yourself. Maybe let them know of any injuries that you might be dealing with so that they can help you and just be aware of as they go through the class. And you can also take that time to make any special requests. Maybe you want to work on glutes for that class, or maybe you want to make it a really core-centric class. Don't be afraid to let the instructor know, like, hey, I would really like to include this in the class today. I love it when clients request that from me because I know that if I do add certain exercises or program a specific part of the class tailored to their needs, I know it's going to want to keep them coming back because they feel seen, and that's what's important. So don't be afraid to make that introduction and get to know your instructor. Building that bond with your instructor is going to make it more likely for you to return back to the Pilates studio, and for sure over time those nerves are going to go out the window. Now, the main tip I have for you in terms of minimizing the nerves in a Pilates studio when you're taking a Pilates class is do not compare yourself to others. I repeat, do not compare yourself to others. I know it's easier said than done. We've all been there. But everyone has their own journey. So why are you going to compare your beginning to someone else's middle? I always tell my clients, if I see a client looking over at another client in a group class and they look like impressed or whatever it is, I always mention in the class, like, do not compare yourself to your neighbor. Everyone has their own journey and you don't know how hard that person has worked to get to that point where they are at today. And that can be you. You can look at them and maybe be inspired by them, but do not compare yourself. Do not look at them and say, man, I wish I could do that exercise like that, or I wish I looked like that. That is just going to bring in negativity into that sacred space that you want when you're sitting on that reformer and when you're in that classroom. So just remember that that person was a beginner at one point too, and maybe the next time you see them walk into class or you feel like you're intimidated by someone walking into class, just give them a smile. They're probably super friendly, and the moment that you sit on the reformer before class, it doesn't hurt to lend a friendly smile. And even as you're cleaning up your reformer afterwards, don't be afraid to say hi to the people that are in your class. You may end up becoming friends with them. You never know. So the last tip I will mention for you, if you're a client who's nervous about taking a group Pilates class or going into a new studio, if it's financially available to you, I would recommend taking maybe 1 or 2 privates in that studio with an instructor. So let's say you try a couple of group classes out, you have an instructor that you really like, see if they're available for private sessions. Taking private sessions at a Pilates studio is a great way of getting acquainted with the Pilates method for your own body. The instructor can let you know maybe things that you weren't even aware of in your own body, and having that one-on-one time, they can really help you with your form so that when you go into a group class, you know that you're doing it properly and you know that you're doing it safely with proper form. Getting that one-on-one time, you can use that to your benefit and take that into your group classes. All the things that you learn from that private will trickle over into the group classes. It's also not as scary if you maybe want to try a couple of privates out to dip your toes and then from there start the group classes. That's also a great approach because it's the one-on-one personalized time. You don't have the nerves of sitting in the group classroom. It's just you and the instructor. It'll make you feel more calm, and then that way you're a little more confident because you know the exercises, you have the groove of things, and then you're ready to jump into group classes. Now, if that's not financially available to you, which I totally understand, that is what online Pilates is for. You can take online Pilates classes, whether it's YouTube or an online studio like mine, and that way you can get acquainted with the Pilates method all from the comfort of your own home. A lot of the Pilates exercises that are done on the mat are oftentimes sprinkled into group Pilates classes on the reformer. So the 100, for example, you can do it on the mat, but you can also do it on the reformer with the handles in your hands and the springs attached. Trying out mat Pilates is a beautiful way of introducing yourself into the Pilates method before jumping into a group class. So know that that is an option for you. And if you want to practice Pilates with me online, you can try my online studio, Pilates on the Green. Your first 7 days are completely free. I promise the classes are nice and calm, friendly, and they are fun. Okay, now moving on to the instructor side. So this is for Pilates teachers or if you are in your Pilates teacher training journey. Okay, now if you find yourself like really nervous teaching a Pilates class, I'm gonna tell you, like, we've all been there. I've been there. I was there for a really, really long time. Now, the first tip that I have for you is always go back to why you decided to become a Pilates instructor. Know that the amount of time that you invested or that you're currently investing in learning the Pilates method should already be a confidence booster in itself. Listen, it is not easy. Pilates teacher training programs are not easy. It is a lot of your time. Most programs are 450-hour plus programs where you're observing, you're practicing teaching, practicing the exercises, you're learning all the spring tensions and modifications and everything that goes with it. It's not easy. It's overwhelming. Knowing that sets you apart from maybe an advanced client. You are the one that is the professional. You're the one learning the exercises and you're learning the method. That is a confidence booster on its own. So you have to own it. Own it. Now, the easiest way to put this is the nerves are good. It means you care. If you weren't nervous, that means you'd be like, all right, I'm gonna go teach a class and whatever, it is what it is. But if you're nervous, that means that you want it to be a good class, you want the clients to have a good time, and that's a great thing. It's good to be nervous. The nerves will minimize over time. Sometimes they're gonna peak a little bit, sometimes they're gonna go down a little bit, and depending on the circumstance, of course the nerves are gonna fluctuate. If you have a full class and maybe you've never had a full class before, of course you're gonna feel maybe a little more nervous. Or if you have someone new in your class that you've never met before, of course you're gonna feel a little more nervous. Now, if you have a class that you're well acquainted with, you know all of the clients, maybe it's a smaller group setting, maybe the nerves will be a little bit less. Just know that it's normal for the nerves to kind of fluctuate. One day, you're gonna look back at your beginning days or the days that you were really nervous about teaching Pilates and smile because of how much you've grown by it. It's a journey, so just enjoy the step and the process and where in that journey you currently are, and know that over time you're gonna look back at this exact moment that you are in and you're gonna smile about it and you're gonna say, that was necessary in order for me to grow and to get to where I am today as a Pilates teacher. Now, I will say that I really no longer have those nerves. Sometimes I do get a little nervous, like I said, if there's a new client that I've never met before, I don't know what to expect from them, if I see them signed up for my group class, or maybe I just wake up and my anxiety is high that day and I go into the studio nervous. Oftentimes, I really know how to control my breath and control my nervous system so that I can push all of those nerves out before starting to teach a class. And I think that that is something that's pretty helpful. If you really learn, I mean, we all know the Pilates breath, right? But if you learn how to control your breath before you start teaching, there is a sense of calm that will come about you that will enter the classroom. And I think that that's really important too, because if you start teaching a group class and you're out of breath and you're nervous and you're talking fast and you're stumbling on all of your words the entire class, then the clients might feel that. So taking control of your nervous system and your breath prior to speaking and starting the instruction of the class, I think can be very helpful for you. Now, of course, we're all going to stumble on our words throughout the class. I'm not talking about when we say knee and we mean elbow, and I just pointed to my elbow as I said knee. So that's going to happen, and we're going to laugh about it and maybe use that in the class to kind of spark a smile out of your clients and recognize that you stumbled on your words. Sometimes it can be a really funny thing that kind of brings the group together and makes everyone laugh about a certain situation. Just know that it's okay. We're all human, and at the end of the day, if you go home and you think to yourself, did I teach the other side of that exercise? We have all been there. I've been there. It's normal. It's gonna happen. That still happens to me today. So it's just part of being a Pilates teacher, and there's a lot of Pilates accounts on Instagram that you can find the humor in terms of not knowing how to count and all of the things that come with being a Pilates instructor. Just learn to use that to feel a part of the community and know that you're not alone. Practice, practice, practice. The more that you practice teaching Pilates, the better an instructor that you're going to become. It's as simple as that. I can't emphasize enough how much you should be practicing in a multitude of settings. If you can, practice teaching privates, practice teaching group classes, practice teaching mat, practice teaching reformer. Put yourself in a variety of settings. You want to be teaching to all levels, all bodies. The more that you practice on a different variety of settings, the better an instructor you're going to become, the more comfortable you're going to feel. Of course, the first time you train a senior client, for example, that's different than teaching someone in in their 20s. So maybe the first time you're going to be nervous teaching that senior client, but you have to put yourself out there so that that happens and you learn from it and you continue to get better at teaching that population. So the more populations that you teach, the more settings that you teach, better an instructor you're going to become. It's as simple as that. Don't be afraid to continue practicing. Now just know that confidence does not happen overnight. It takes time to build up. And one day you're going to feel more confident than another day, and that's normal too. I want to take a second to go over mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen, and you're going to learn and you're going to grow from the mistakes that happen. Now, in the first studio that I taught at, there was a really bad mistake that I made, and why not? Okay, I'm going to share it with you because maybe it'll help you. I really have never told anyone this story other than my family and my very, very close friends. So, okay. I was towards the end of my teacher training journey. I was not fully certified yet, but I did start teaching group classes at the studio that I was doing my teacher training in. I was also seeing privates at the time, and in one of my group classes, I will never forget it, a Friday morning at 9:30 in the morning, and it was a group that I was already very well acquainted with. They had been coming to my group class at that time on those days for a couple of weeks, and I was getting more and more comfortable. So of course, the more comfortable you are, you start teaching a little more advanced exercises. In the beginning, you're scared, so you stick to like the level 1, level 2 exercises, and then you start, feeling a little more comfortable, so you start branching out and you start introducing new exercises to teach in your classes. There was this one class where I was teaching the kneeling arm series facing the foot bar, and everyone was high kneeling with the straps in their hands facing the foot bar. Now, before we got into that position, I very clearly stated that if someone did not feel comfortable, we were on a blue spring, by the way. It was a light spring tension. So if someone did not feel comfortable being in that position on that spring tension, they had two options. They could sit on the reformer with their legs crossed. They can go into a low kneeling position. So the position setup was one of their options. Or they could increase the spring tension, maybe add a yellow spring or swap to a red spring if the blue felt a little unstable for them. So I made it very clear, and a couple of people actually decided to sit on their bottom, and they had the straps in their hands, and that was that. There was one lady who did not follow those modifications, and she stayed on her high kneeling position, and she fell. She fell straight into the well, and she got hurt. And again, I was still going through my teacher training. I hadn't finished the program. I was very stressed. I handled it as best as I could. She left the classroom, of course, and afterwards I cried for a very long time. That was a Friday, so the whole weekend I was basically devastated. It was terrible. It really destroyed me, and it made me question if I was good enough to be a Pilates instructor, and it made me question my entire life, really, for that matter. But moral of the story is I grew from that. I did not let it bring me down, and now looking back at that experience, I realized at the time I really did take 100% fault. I was like, it's my fault. I'm a terrible Pilates instructor. I broke someone and I should not be teaching Pilates. No. I look back and I realize, you know what? It wasn't entirely my fault, or my fault at all for that matter. This client did not speak English. Yeah, it was an English speaking class and she did not speak English. Her daughter was next to her translating. She spoke Spanish. I live in Miami. It's very common. But usually the people who take my classes speak English. She didn't. And her daughter was next to her translating the exercises, which looking back, that was already stressful enough because I'm teaching and someone was talking the whole time, translating, which really shouldn't have been allowed in that studio, at least for a new teacher trainee, but it's okay. It happened. And I grew so much from that. That wouldn't have happened. Maybe something worse would have happened. Probably not, but I'm glad it happened looking back because I grew a lot of bones from that very, very stressful situation. So the point is, if something like that or something similar happens to you, know that it's okay. Pilates instructors go through stuff like that, and it's normal, and it happens, and you will move on. There will be a beautiful light coming if you're in the middle of that kind of situation. It's okay. Now, the last little tip that I have for you is to find a Pilates studio that you can really flourish in. If you are months, years into teaching Pilates and you're still finding yourself like really, really nervous, maybe it's time to just reevaluate the environment that you're teaching Pilates in or the clients that you're seeing. It's normal to have those nerves like a lot in the beginning. I remember when I first started teaching, I would plan out all of of my classes like to a T. I would write everything down as much as I possibly could. Eventually that kind of fades away and you don't have to put so much effort into planning a class. I will walk into class sometimes and just ask my clients what they want, and from there I will program the class. Sometimes I'll plan it the night before. If you feel like you're still going through so much detail into planning the classes and you feel like you're super nervous every time you're teaching a class, just maybe reevaluate the studio that you're teaching in, because that's normal in the beginning. And not to say that it's not normal throughout being a Pilates teacher, but I will say that the more confident you become just naturally over time in teaching Pilates, the nerves, they should be fading away. Just something to think about if this resonates with you at all in any way. If you spend your entire career as a Pilates instructor continuing to take Pilates classes and continuing to learn, then you're going to be a great Pilates instructor, because that's the beautiful thing about being a Pilates teacher, is that you were a student first and you will always continue to be a student. So use that to your advantage, learn from other instructors, continue to take classes. The more that you teach Pilates, yes, of course, you're going to grow more confident in teaching, but the more that you take Pilates, better instructor you're going to become. So there you have it. I tried not to ramble, which is like impossible for me because I tend to talk a lot. So I hope that you found this video helpful, maybe at least one part of the video helpful. And if you did, I hope that you give this video a thumbs up and that you subscribe to my channel for more Pilates and health related content like this. And if I didn't touch upon a topic that makes you nervous in the Pilates studio, please let me know in the comments and I would be happy to help you out. And that's all from me for now, so I will see you next time. Bye!